We made it through the 2010.
The
almost.
What do you mean, like, made it through? Like, we survived?
We survived the decade.
Unless an asteroid hits in 2019, December 31st. And let's just hope that does not happen.
That would be a pretty big science headline if we survived, which is what we're going to go through today.
So what we went through is each year, and we decided the biggest science news of that year going from 2010 to this year, 2019.
It was a challenge. We told ourselves we can only pick one in each year. So you might disagree.
So exciting, though. They were crazy.
Yeah, they're exciting, and they will absolutely define the future in the next decade. So,
Mitch, what is your highlight of the last decade, though? Do you have one? Everyone's going to be asking you this come New Year's Eve. They better got an answer.
True. That's a good time to...
mine was making this channel and sharing all of the science information with you, my friends.
Well, actually,
I don't know what yours is, though.
If I'm being honest, that obviously the last decade of my life has been primarily AsapSCIENCE, and just before that would have been graduating from our science degree and you being a science teacher and me working in a lab. So a lot of it really circulates around science and then sharing that with people. So it's kind of a nice wrap up to do this wrap up.
So you just stole my highlight. Okay, whatever. That's fine.
Well,
That's fine. You all watched that happen.
Shall we just jump into it? 2010. This was the year that Instagram was released. The iPad was also released. Lady Gaga wore her meat dress, and One Direction was just formed on the X Factor. But it was also the year that scientists in a South African cave discovered 2 million-year-old fossils of a new species called Australopithecus sediba that are potentially the direct ancestors to humans. This species has some features that are incredibly similar to humans, like their teeth, their nose, their long arms, while others are more similar to a primitive past, like flexible feet. And this new species, Australopithecus sediba, is potentially a link between Lucy and Homo sapiens.
It's 2011, and we have Beyonce announcing that she's pregnant in a mic drop moment, and Bridesmaids is a huge success, so if you're like me, you have Melissa McCarthy pooping into a sink etched into your mind. And the end of the year came with the confirmation of an Earth-like planet called Kepler 22b. This planet is a contender for having life on it because it's within the Goldilocks zone around a star. The planet is 2.4 times bigger than Earth, and 1 year there would be 290 days. It's actually 600 light years away. That means it would take 600 years for light to get there from Earth. So unless we're like zooming anytime soon, this planet is just gonna be up to our imaginations to picture. And for me, I picture really good looking mermaids and mermen.
2012, the year the world was supposed to end but didn't. Yay! But it was also the end of a 5-decade-long search for an elementary particle called the Higgs Boson. So in 1964, Peter Higgs and 5 other scientists proposed the Higgs mechanism, which was to help explain why particles have mass in the first place and implied the existence of the Higgs boson. But it wasn't until 2012 when the Large Hadron Collider, which is the world's largest high-energy particle collider, was able to prove its existence. This particle gives mass to all other subatomic elements like protons and electrons, and was the final piece to the Standard Model. The Standard Model is a theory of fundamental particles and how they react, and this discovery was considered the biggest in a generation.
It is now 2013. If you're like me, you were scarred by the Red Wedding in Game of Thrones. We also have the intellectual, brilliant song, What Did the Fox Say? The most important scientific story of that year. For the first time in human history, our atmosphere had reached 400 parts per million of carbon dioxide. In the 1700s, before the Industrial Revolution, we were at 280 parts per million of CO2. In 1958, when this observatory first started to record how much CO2 was in the atmosphere, we were at 315 parts per million. By studying air trapped in Antarctic ice cores, we know for a fact that this is the first time we have had this much carbon dioxide in our atmosphere in at least 800,000 years. But since 2013, we have been increasing the amount of carbon dioxide that we are producing as humans. So this year, that same observatory found that in May, there was 414.7 parts per million of CO2 in our atmosphere this year.
2014, we had the Ice Bucket Challenge, Adele Dazeem, Flappy Bird exploded and everyone was playing it. And for the first time in human history, we landed a probe on a comet. The Rosetta spacecraft was actually launched in 2004, and after a series of flybys using Earth and Mars to gravity assist it out into space, it finally came across 67P, which is a comet. Eventually, it sent a probe down to try and land on its surface. But what ended up happening was that its thrusters and harpoons that were meant to help it actually land didn't work, and as a result, this probe started bouncing on the comet uncontrollably. By the time it landed, it was actually in the wrong position, and so its solar panels were not efficiently geared towards the sunlight. This meant it only had 3 days before it would die. We did still manage to collect some data, luckily, so not only did we get the first ever photos from the surface of a comet, but analyzing the water on the comet showed scientists that it was a different chemical makeup than our own, and also suggested ultimately that Earth's water didn't come from a comet.
2015, we have the dress debate, which is one of our most popular ASAP Science videos. Go check it out here. We have Netflix and chill for you dirty, dirty kids. And of course, the most important story of the year, Pizza Rat. But this is also the year that we have clustered, regularly interspaced, short palindromic repeats becoming a household name. I know it as CRISPR, but you, an intellectual, know it more accurately as CRISPR-Cas9. This is the system that can cut and paste DNA, delete DNA, put your thing down, flip it, and reverse DNA. And essentially, 2015 is the year that we as humans all began to live in a world with effective genetic engineering.
2016 was the year of Stranger Things, Hamilton the musical exploded in popularity, and Pokemon Go got everyone outside. Now imagine this. Far, far away, there's 2 black holes that eventually come within close enough proximity that their gravity starts pulling them towards each other, and they start spiraling and spiraling until eventually they crash into each other, ultimately changing the fabric of space and time. That's what happened in 2016 when the LIGO Observatory detected gravitational waves for the first time ever. Amazingly enough, 100 years before that, Einstein actually predicted when objects with enough mass accelerate, they create waves like ripples on a pond, but in space. These gravitational waves actually allow us to hear or see the universe in a way like never before, and also get an unprecedented look at how gravity works.
It's 2017 and we have very important things like the Women's March. Get Out comes out, amazing movie, and also other important things like fidget spinners. August 21st, 2017 was the day of the Great American Solar Eclipse. For us in North America, it was a very big day, a really interesting time that astronomy and public discourse and pop culture came together. And one study found that 88% of Americans spent a portion of their day at least looking at the eclipse in real life or on their computers. As for scientists, it was an amazing opportunity for them to study the sun's inner atmosphere, which is a lot easier to do during an eclipse. The next eclipse is actually going to happen in America in 2024, so that will be a big headline for that year. But if you are in parts of Chile and Argentina, it's actually going to happen again next December.
2018, we had Beyonce's Coachella, we had a royal wedding, and we had Ariana Grande and Pete, what's his name? Davidson. Pete Davidson got engaged and disengaged. But advances in gene editing also allowed same-sex mice to give birth. So scientists used CRISPR to modify the embryonic stem cells of one female and then took the egg of an unmodified female, and these pups were born healthy and ultimately were able to reproduce themselves as well. But things were a little trickier for the male subjects because they took the sperm of one male and then the embryonic stem cells that were genetically modified of another male and put them in a female egg that had had the nucleus removed. But unfortunately, even though it was successful, these pups died shortly after birth. And while I find this kind of science so fascinating and interesting, it obviously brings up a lot of ethical and moral concerns, not only around the safety and health of those offspring, but just around genetic manipulation in general.
2019. I don't know if I need to give you pop culture references because hopefully you remember them, but I don't know, in general, like Lizzo, Billie Eilish. On April 10th of this year, you should know what happened. Okay, I'm gonna let you fill it in. What happened? You're right, and researchers unveiled the first ever visual depiction of a black hole, which is 55 million light years away. That is an unfathomable distance. Oh my gosh, are we alone in the universe? 2 billion people worldwide saw this image. It involved linking data streams and information from 8 different Earth-based radio telescopes and was an amazing moment when borders fell and a bunch of different countries worked together to get information about something far off in the distance. And as a disk of conglomerating matter falls into the black hole, it heats up to astounding temperatures. These enormous temperatures release light, and some of that light is trapped and falls in, some of it isn't trapped, and that's the actual light that we would see as that silhouette, as the event horizon in that famous black hole image. The image also confirmed predictions made on the basis of Einstein's theory of relativity. So if anyone asks you, who's your favorite influencer, babe? Make sure you answer Einstein.
Going into the next decade, what do you have any predictions for the science of the 20s?
Climate change is probably going to get worse. So we are hopefully going to work better on fixing that.
I think that we'll see a lot of progression in the world of CRISPR and gene editing. We as humans have to address what it means ethically, morally, for people to be able to modify genes in humans.
And we didn't include when that Chinese scientist went rogue and did it on humans.
I'm sure there's a lot of other science you guys are screaming through the camera saying you didn't include.
Just write them in the comments.
Yeah, I honestly want to hear what your favorite things were.
Do you think that we're gonna be doing this at the end of 2020?
We'll all be old
with little
fogies
kids
on
running
here.
around.
Yeah. I think there are science communicators who do it their entire lives.
Yeah,
and this
I hope to be.
I think like being interested in science, whether you're someone watching at home or whether you're somebody who wants to be doing it actively, is always a noble cause and exciting that people
But
care
maybe
about.
we're not gonna be sitting in front of like an archaic camera and a microphone. We're gonna be like, people are gonna have
Be
like their little
virtual.
implants in their backs of their eyes, and they're gonna be sitting there like this, and we're gonna be peering like, hello, the 20s are over now. Welcome to the 30s.
True.
And I'm gonna be dating a robot. Our kid's gonna be dating an algorithm, and you're going
I'm just gonna be a digital memory. I will have like passed away, but we'll have captured my brain and put it into like some circuitry neural system.
And everyone's gonna be like, Greg's crazy. He still thinks that he's dating Mitch. Mitch is dead.
Well, thank you for watching. Thank you for being on this channel for almost a decade. Give it a like and subscribe.
Oh my god, coming in at the end for the give it a like and subscribe. Aren't you supposed to start with that?
I don't know. We still haven't learned how to do
If
YouTube.
there's one thing I hope I'm not doing in 10 years, it's saying like and subscribe.
Fair. Okay, don't even bother. You can subscribe, but hopefully we will
Don't
see you.
unsubscribe.
But
don't
if you made it this far in the video and then you decide to unsubscribe, that's also weird.
That's like bullying.
But yeah, we'll see you in the 20s.
Oh my god.
See ya.
Bye.